ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਦੇ ਇਸ ਹਿੱਸੇ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਡੈਲਟਾ ਤੋਂ ਲਿਬਰਲ ਕੈਂਡੀਡੇਟ ਕਾਰਲਾ ਕੁਆਲਟਰੋ ਸ਼ਾਮਲ ਹੋ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ। ਕਾਰਲਾ ਕੁਆਲਟਰੋ ਇਸ ਰਾਈਡਿੰਗ ਨੂੰ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ 2015 ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਪਹਿਲੀ ਵਾਰ ਜਿੱਤਿਆ ਸੀ। ਇਸ ਰਾਈਡਿੰਗ ਦਾ ਏਰੀਆ ਵੈਸੇ ਕਈ ਵਾਰੀ ਰੀਡਿਸਟਰੀਬਿਊਟ ਹੋ ਚੁੱਕਾ। ਰੀਸੈਂਟ ਰੀਡਿਸਟਰੀਬਿਊਸ਼ਨ 2012 ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਹੋਈ ਸੀ। ਉਦੋਂ ਨਿਊਟਨ ਨਾਰਥ ਡੈਲਟਾ ਅਤੇ ਡੈਲਟਾ ਰਿਚਮੰਡ ਈਸਟ ਦੀਆਂ ਰਾਈਡਿੰਗਸ ਨੂੰ ਇਕੱਠਾ ਕਰਕੇ ਇਹ ਰਾਈਡਿੰਗ ਬਣਾਈ ਗਈ ਸੀ। 2015 ਦਾ ਇਲੈਕਸ਼ਨ ਜਦੋਂ ਡੈਲਟਾ ਦੀ ਇਸ ਮੌਜੂਦਾ ਰਾਈਡਿੰਗ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਪਹਿਲੀ ਵਾਰ ਇਸ ਰਾਈਡਿੰਗ ਦੀ ਇੱਦਾਂ ਵੋਟਿੰਗ ਹੋਈ ਸੀ। ਕਾਰਲਾ ਕੁਆਲਟਰੋ ਉਦੋਂ ਇਸ ਸੀਟ ਨੂੰ ਜਿੱਤੇ ਸਨ। ਉਦੋਂ ਕੰਜ਼ਰਵੇਟਿਵ ਕੈਂਡੀਡੇਟ ਸੀਗੇ ਕੈਰੋਲਿਨ ਫਿਨਲੇ, ਜਿਹੜੇ ਕਿ ਹੁਣ ਸਾਊਥ ਸਰੀ ਵਾਈਟ ਰੌਕ ਤੋਂ ਇਨਕੰਬੈਂਟ ਨੇ। ਉਦੋਂ ਕੈਰੋਲਿਨ ਫਿਨਲੇ ਨੂੰ ਕਾਰਲਾ ਕੁਆਲਟਰੋ ਨੇ ਹਰਾਇਆ ਸੀ ਅਤੇ ਬੜੀ ਕਨਵਿੰਸਿੰਗ ਵਿਕਟਰੀ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ 2015 ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਦਰਜ ਕੀਤੀ। 2019 ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਵੀ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਵੱਡੀ ਇੱਕ ਲੀਡ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਇਸ ਸੀਟ ਨੂੰ ਜਿੱਤਿਆ। ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਮਿਨਿਸਟਰ ਆਫ ਪਬਲਿਕ ਸਰਵਿਸਿਜ਼ ਐਂਡ ਪ੍ਰੋਕਿਉਰਮੈਂਟ ਐਂਡ ਐਕਸੈਸਿਬਿਲਿਟੀ ਰਹਿ ਚੁੱਕੇ ਨੇ। ਮਿਨਿਸਟਰ ਫਾਰ ਸਪੋਰਟਸ ਐਂਡ ਪਰਸਨਸ ਵਿਦ ਡਿਸੇਬਿਲਿਟੀਜ਼ ਦੇ ਅਹੁਦੇ 'ਤੇ ਰਹਿ ਚੁੱਕੇ ਨੇ। 43rd ਪਾਰਲੀਮੈਂਟ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਕਿ ਹੁਣੇ ਡਿਜ਼ੋਲਵ ਹੋਈ ਹੈ, ਉਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਮਿਨਿਸਟਰ ਆਫ ਇੰਪਲੋਇਮੈਂਟ, ਵਰਕਫੋਰਸ ਡਿਵੈਲਪਮੈਂਟ ਐਂਡ ਡਿਸੇਬਿਲਿਟੀ ਇਨਕਲੂਜਨ ਰਹੇ। ਸੋ ਜਿੰਨੇ ਵੀ ਬੈਨੀਫਿਟਸ ਪੈਂਡੈਮਿਕ ਦੌਰਾਨ ਆਏ, ਵੈਦਰ ਇਟ ਵਾਜ਼ ਦ CERB, ਦ ਵੇਜ ਸਬਸਿਡੀ ਅਤੇ ਬਾਕੀ ਦੇ, ਉਹ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਮਿਨਿਸਟਰੀ ਦੇ ਥਰੂ ਹੀ ਫਲੋ ਹੋ ਕੇ ਆਏ। ਅਤੇ ਪੋਲੀਟਿਕਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਆਉਣ ਤੋਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਵੀ ਲਿਸਟ ਆਫ ਅਕੰਪਲਿਸ਼ਮੈਂਟਸ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਬਹੁਤ ਇੰਪ੍ਰੈਸਿਵ ਲਿਸਟ ਆ, ਜਿਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਨੂੰ ਪੈਰਾਓਲੰਪਿਕਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਰਿਪਰੈਜ਼ੈਂਟ ਕੀਤਾ, ਮੈਡਲਸ ਜਿੱਤੇ। 1988 ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਸਿਓਲ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ, 1992 ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਬਾਰਸਲੋਨਾ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ। ਸਵਿਮਿੰਗ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ 3 ਵਾਰੀ ਬ੍ਰੌਂਜ਼ ਮੈਡਲ ਜਿੱਤੇ। ਟੀਮ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਲਈ ਵਰਲਡ ਚੈਂਪੀਅਨਸ਼ਿਪ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਮੈਡਲ ਜਿੱਤੇ। ਪੇਸ਼ੇ ਵਜੋਂ ਵਕੀਲ ਨੇ, ਲਾਇਰ ਨੇ। ਹਿਊਮਨ ਰਾਈਟਸ ਦੇ ਫੀਲਡ ਵਿੱਚ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਐਜ਼ ਅ ਲਾਇਰ ਕੰਮ ਕੀਤਾ। 2012 ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕੁਈਨਜ਼ ਡਾਇਮੰਡ ਜੁਬਲੀ ਮੈਡਲ ਨਾਲ ਸਨਮਾਨਿਤ ਕੀਤਾ ਗਿਆ ਸੀ। ਅਤੇ ਐਤਕੀ ਦੇ ਇਲੈਕਸ਼ਨ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਮੁਕਾਬਲਾ ਡੈਲਟਾ ਦੀ ਰਾਈਡਿੰਗ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕੰਜ਼ਰਵੇਟਿਵ ਦੇ ਕੈਂਡੀਡੇਟ ਗੈਰੀ ਸ਼ੀਰਰ ਨਾਲ ਹੈ, ਜਿਹੜੇ ਕਿ ਡੈਲਟਾ ਚੈਂਬਰ ਆਫ ਕਾਮਰਸ ਦੇ ਰੀਸੈਂਟਲੀ ਮੁਖੀ ਸੀਗੇ। NDP ਦੀ ਮੋਨਿਕਾ ਡੀਨ, ਗ੍ਰੀਨ ਪਾਰਟੀ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਜੈਰਮੀ ਸਮਿਥ ਅਤੇ ਪੀਪਲਜ਼ ਪਾਰਟੀ ਦੇ ਪੌਲ ਟਾਰਾਸੈਂਕੋ ਨਾਲ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਮੁਕਾਬਲਾ ਹੋਏਗਾ। ਇਸ ਵੇਲੇ ਕਾਰਲਾ ਕੁਆਲਟਰੋ ਜੀ ਸਟੂਡੀਓ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਮੌਜੂਦ ਨੇ। ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਸਵਾਗਤ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ। Ms. Qualtrough, a very good morning to you.
Well, thank you for having me.
I just wanted to go through this entire list because sometimes, people know you as the Minister of Employment in the previous Parliament, but the list of accomplishments precedes your entry into politics. So I think it's important for that to be a part of the introduction.
Well, it certainly has shaped how I do my job now. All the things I've done in the past, I brought with me to this job.
Paralympics are going on, and you've represented Canada in Paralympics, and Canadian athletes are doing pretty well, 18 medals so far. Before we get into the campaign and the political discussion, going to the Olympics, sports in itself is a story of overcoming adversity and challenge. Paralympics is even more so. And being a Paralympian yourself, I do want to get your thoughts on that.
Well, certainly, you learn all the lessons everybody learns from sport: hard work, perseverance, being part of a team, not giving up, digging in. But it's also a way, as someone who maybe has a disability and who has faced additional obstacles, to gain the confidence and also show the world that we can do amazing things, that people with disabilities can be excellent at things, and we bring different perspectives to the jobs we do, the way we raise our families. And it's just really an opportunity to maybe dispel some of the myths about what people think people with disabilities can and can't do. So for me, when you see an athlete running incredibly fast, even though they can't see very well, or swimming incredibly fast and making world records, maybe you'll be a little more open to hiring them in your workplace. It's a real transferable message.
Now let's come to the campaign. How is your campaign going on?
Oh, it's super busy, as always. This is number 3 for me. So we certainly got better, systems in place and volunteers that have come back. And I have to say we're having a lot of fun in this campaign. We're working really hard, but we've got a very strong team and a very good message.
The opponents of the Liberal Party are saying that this was not the right time to call an election. And if polls are to be believed, with the shrinking lead, or now even the Conservatives in the total overall polls, they're leading the Liberal Party. When you see that, what goes through your mind? Do you think that maybe this was actually really not the right time to call an election?
Well, actually, I would think quite the opposite. Now that we've got everybody's platform out there, all the different parties' platforms, you can really see how parties have very different visions for how we should move forward as a country. There's different promises, there's different solutions to big problems, and I think it's actually made me think it actually was an important time to call this election, because different parties would take this country in very different directions.
What do you think of the Conservative Party's shift to the left, it seems? With all the policy proposals, they've got a climate plan for the very first time. They're talking about workers' rights and pro-worker messaging as a part of their platform. When you see that, why do you think that's the reason?
Well, I actually I don't consider what they want to do in climate very much of a plan. I apologize, but listen, I think they're going to take this country back. I think that their plan is to reverse our promises on childcare, rip up the agreements that we have with 8 provinces to deliver $10 a day childcare. If you want women to participate in the workforce, you don't do that. They're going to, their targets are below Paris in terms of climate action. That's not very much action. And I think it's just not a real plan. Like it's disappointing, I guess, but not surprising.
If let's focus on a few local things here, which are very specific to your riding and the area that you represent. Because, a lot of the times the discussions that we have with the ministry that you were handling, that impact is at a national level. Recently, you made an announcement about the trains that go through South Surrey and Whiterock carrying coal. And then that coal gets shipped through the Delta port from your constituency. And that has been a bone of contention for a long time, with a lot of people complaining that, this needs to stop. And you recently made an announcement. Can you tell us about that? Yeah,
so we're going to stop the export of thermal coal from and through Canada. And what that means is, we've already committed to ending thermal coal production in Canada, and we've formed an international alliance to power the world past coal. We actually still ship coal from Canada through Delta Port. So while the U.S., the Western ports in the United States have banned this coal, all the coal is shipped up through South Surrey and Delta and exported through Delta Port. We hear constituents tell me that they've got coal dust on their balconies, or they're worried about the air quality of the air that their kids breathe. This is ending all of that by 2030. So that doesn't mean in 2030. Earlier than 2030, we will no longer be exporting thermal coal from Canada.
Why 9 years for that? So when we say by 2030, that's still 9 years away.
Yeah, and exactly. It's meant to be in alignment with when this country is going to stop producing thermal coal. So it's going to take the industry time to pivot. But quite frankly, I made a point of saying as soon as, because we can actually ban the export of coal that comes from the States a lot earlier, because that doesn't impact Canadian industry as much. That's just an export thing from the States.
So that's something that
we can do that earlier. Yes.
Okay. In the last 6 years, since you've been representing the riding of Delta, what are some of the accomplishments that you want to highlight that are specific to the community of Delta?
Well, the most recent one, of course, was the North Delta track.
The track,
North Delta residents have wanted a place to gather as a community, a place for their athletes to train. Until now, our athletes from Delta are going to Surrey to train. And no offense to Surrey, but we want to keep them in Delta. And people to walk and gather and just have a place, a safe place for community to gather. And certainly the doors we've been knocking on in North Delta, that particular investment has been very, very well received, I should say. And just over the years, we've done a number of amazing things with organizations like the Legions, whether it's making their facilities more accessible, doing seniors programming. Delta Gymnastics has a particularly fun one called Seniors Can Move. We've done big things that have benefited the Alex Fraser Bridge and just the commute for particular North Delta and Surrey residents into Vancouver. And we've done smaller things that have had a big impact on the people that receive the support.
Now, the replacement of the Messi Tunnel, the province announced the project. It's upwards of $4 billion, the price tag that they put. And I remember the last time when you and I spoke, you had mentioned that you're still waiting for a proposal from the provincial government, and that's when the federal government would be in a position to commit some sort of a funding. Of course, now it's the election campaign time, and a lot of people were hoping that when Mr. Trudeau comes to this side of the country, he will most likely make an announcement about the federal contribution should the Liberal Party form government again for the replacement of the Messi Tunnel. Is that something on the cards? Is that something that people can expect?
Well, as early as 2019 during the election, the Prime Minister came to North Delta and said the money is there. We're going to partner in this project. As you said, we've been waiting for a proposal, and finally, during this election, they announced that they're going to go with a tunnel. Super exciting, because this will be the third election that this has been an issue for me, but certainly everyone in the Lower Mainland has been waiting for this crossing to move forward for a very long time. The Prime Minister was here a week or so ago, and he said that we will partner in this project. Of course, no final decision, because we still have to go through an environmental assessment. Of course, there will be funding from the federal government, but we can't give you a number now. First of all, because it was only announced during the election and there is some due diligence. But depending on the course of this process, this is 2 or 3 years of an environmental assessment ahead of us because they chose a tunnel. So we've got time to really dig in and make sure we fund this in a way that maximizes the benefit to BC and the Lower Mainland in particular.
You've been tasked with some of the toughest ministries, I would say, especially the Public Service and the Procurement Ministry, the Phoenix payroll system. That was under that ministry, so that wasn't easy to handle. And then with the Ministry of Employment, and then the pandemic hit. A lot of these benefits that got rolled out through your ministry. You were doing regular press briefings, and you were answering questions and giving out details of how those benefits would go. And all of that, I think the pace at which it happened, the benefits that it provided, it helped a lot of people in the country. But one program which we've spoken about before in the past, and which has been under a lot of scrutiny, is the LMIA program, where we know the blatant misuse and the abuse of the whole system, how it's taken place. Should you become the minister of this file again, how do you plan to tackle the problem, knowing what you know over the last 4 years or 3 years since you've been the Minister of Employment?
Absolutely. It's a really important question, and LMIA fraud is completely undermining the credibility of the Temporary Foreign Worker Program. There are so many good people, employers, workers who are doing hard work and who are coming to Canada and contributing, but all the conversation ends up being about this very real and then this sometimes perceived challenge of LMIA fraud. What we've started, already as we've looked to overhaul the program is more inspections, more data sharing between CRA and ourselves, which sounds like a very bureaucratic answer, but now we have access to payroll data, so we can tell who's on somebody's payroll. And so if you've been given 70 LMIAs and you don't have 70 people on the payroll, I can tell now, and I can act upon that. We've given more enforcement mechanisms, so our inspectors can go out and they can impose higher penalties. But obviously there's a lot more work to do. And I think a lot about the LMIA system. We've promised in our platform a trusted employer model, which will mean for employers who actually comply, they won't have to go through the rigor of all the administration every year. So it's kind of like a nexus for employers who haven't broken the rules. We're also regulating recruiters more. We're putting in place, BC already has that in place. We're also putting in place a college of immigration consultants. So hopefully with some structure to that profession, we'll find less fraud and abuse, but absolutely something that's on my mind and I plan to roll up my sleeves and tackle. As you said, there's been a bunch of other stuff on my plate, which doesn't mean that I can't also be working on this, and I haven't been. I have been, but we know this is something yet to be fully resolved.
Is this so? When you look back, with all the accomplishments, all the things that you mentioned that you've been able to do, is there something that you wish had been done sooner? Is there some sort of a regret that I wish that I was walking into this election campaign with this thing accomplished?
Well, you always think you could have done things faster or better. I'm a perfectionist, and it's people who are accomplished usually are. But, I think obviously we would have liked to get people everything quicker, and we would have liked, I don't know, it's a very good question that nobody's asked me for a while. But, we made some really big, exciting platform commitments in 2019, and because of COVID, we've shifted some of those. We haven't been able to focus on some things because we've been focusing on very important other things like protecting the health and safety of our country during a global crisis. And so what I'm excited about is this platform kind of merges the two. It reflects the new reality we find ourselves in post-COVID, but at the same time, it keeps us on the path to making life better for people.
And what's your vision for Delta should you win again? What is it that you would like to do specifically for the constituents?
Well, I'd say 2 or 3 things. First of all, we know that there's a challenge finding workers in Delta, just like there's a challenge in Surrey and other places in the Lower Mainland, directly connected, of course, to other issues I want to tackle around affordability, so housing affordability, childcare. Honestly, if there's one thing people should be voting for in the Liberal platform, it's the $10 a day childcare. If you're earning minimum wage and you're paying $3,000 a month for 2 children to go to daycare, that math doesn't add up. When this is fully in place, that same family for 2 kids will be paying $600 a month. That's game-changing for families.
And that happens by 2024?
That does, yes. As of next year, childcare fees in BC will go down by 50%. So again, with, say, $3,000, go down to $1,500, and by 2024 to $600. That's just, people can work with that kind of support behind them. Affordable housing is a big one in Delta. Again, I know it is around the Lower Mainland, but I've been working with a group of partners in Delta, the city, local developers, nonprofits, the Canadian Mortgage and Housing Corporation, to really come up with some innovative ways to build rental property, to build affordable single-family housing, housing for people, for independent living. Like, there's this desperate need for housing in Delta, and I look forward to continuing the work on that.
And that's in collaboration with, of course, the provincial and the municipal. Yeah.
And the city, for sure. The city is a strong partner in this.
Ms. Qualtrough, thank you so much for your time this morning, and good luck for the rest of the campaign.
Oh, thank you.
And any final message to the voters?
No, I just want everybody out there to know how hard we've worked, how strong our team is, what a positive message and vision we have for our country moving forward. And as we finish the fight against COVID and we recover economically, which we are well on the way to doing, we intend to leave nobody in this country behind.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And good luck.